You remember when you got her? You had hours and hours to just drive and dream. You spent your Saturdays fixing whatever needed fixing just to keep her running right. 20 years later, isn't it time you two got reacquainted? When you're ready, we're here. Because at LMC Truck, we know that while time may have passed, your passion for her never faded. Get her back on the road where she and you belong.
Now you're watching Gearz, brought to you by LMC Truck. Keep them on the road.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. You know, a few years ago, I was hanging out in one of my favorite places, the junkyard, and I ran across an old International Cabover truck. Now, it was just a cab and chassis at the time, but it was cool, it was in decent shape, and the price was right. It was free. So, it became the basis of a project called Heavy Metal. Check it out. Steady as she goes. The first step was to roll the old beast into the shop. Keep going. And see what we had to work with. There you go. Yee. That's some pretty nasty stuff there, man. And even though it was a former Navy truck with relatively low miles, it was pretty crusty. From the nasty junk we found in the cab, that is, Mark, why don't you smell that? Tell me what that is. That is, oh man, that's chicken poop, man. This thing's got chicken crap in it. What the heck? To the prehistoric goo we found in the fuel tanks. Can you say sludge? Oh, that's awful. To the neglected engine. Wow, there's hardly any sludge at all. But with some cleanup and some well-placed new parts, the old girl cleared her pipes and roared to life, showing just how resilient these old International engines can be. It sounds awesome! However, keeping the stock engine was never the plan for Heavy Metal. So out went the old engine, and a hot-rodded Duramax built and tweaked by PPE was stuffed between the frame rails along with an Allison transmission. Now, of course, this required the fabrication of custom motor mounts that would be strong enough to handle that big diesel. And with the power output now at over 600 horsepower and 1,350 foot-pounds, yeah, the big Cabover was quickly becoming a pretty serious performance machine. To handle all that power and support the truck, axles from a Chevy Top Kick were sourced from, you guessed it, a junkyard, and a custom 4-link suspension was built around a Kelderman air ride suspension front and rear. Let me 5.5. Polished aluminum wheels from Diesel wheels and big Goodyear tires round out the rolling stock and complete the chassis. Next came the big decision. What kind of a truck was Heavy Metal going to be? And there was a lot of speculation from you viewers out there wondering what kind of bed we were going to put on this thing. Of course, the question was answered when we rolled in a vintage Holmes dual boom wrecker bed that I found once again in the salvage yard in Connecticut. Once the tow bed was fit in place, new Warren industrial winches were installed. You gotta go that way a little bit. and a big custom toolbox was fabricated by In the Ditch Towing, and that was fit in place. One more. All right. Finally, vintage Schlitz beer kegs were located on eBay and modified to work as fuel tanks, and then mounted on the side of the truck for easy access, bringing the overall look of the rig together into a very unique tow truck. After that, we dealt with details like the seats and the wiring and the radiator and that kind of stuff. But then the truck seemed to disappear, prompting a lot of you to go, what happened to it? Where did it go? Where's the cab? That is what we're about to show you. Hey, welcome back to Gearz and the return of heavy metal, a wild 69 International tow truck that we've built primarily out of junkyard parts. Now, once we had the layout of the truck done, it was time to move on to paint and body. And since we are all about encouraging the next generation of gearheads, first thing we did was pull off the cab and give Doug a call at the Hot Rod Institute. The Hot Rod Institute is one of the premier technical colleges in the nation. Hot Rod Institute rocks! Specializing in teaching students all automotive skills like custom metalwork, paint and body, performance chassis setup and fabrication, high-performance engine building, custom interior and upholstery, and of course, final assembly and wiring. So, turning the students and instructors loose on the old International cab is a great learning and teaching tool.
Our students and everything and everybody that's coming through there is just absolutely, I can't tell you how much fun it is to work with them. I don't know if it's because we run a professional rod shop and those guys do such high quality work, but now it's spilled over into our students and quality is awesome, and they come out with that attitude like, okay, I want to do really good in this industry, and I want to do really good high quality work.
There'll need to be a little bit of an overhang built.
So the first step was to walk around the cab with Doug and show him what I wanted and point out any problem areas.
You know, there were just little rusty spots.
With that done, we loaded it up and they headed back to South Dakota. The first order of business was to completely strip the cab and fix any rust or damage. And as usual, this revealed a little more damage than was originally thought to be there. But Danny just took it in stride and went to work building replacement panels.
This panel was damaged over here, so first we started on this lower panel here. We wanted to get our base kind of massaged out, get our body line back in there. So we addressed that first with help of some students and other odd shop
and you
guys.
made new panels, new metal.
Yep, we made this piece out of 2 pieces and then just welded up the center.
The roof was another problem area, with not only an ugly drip rail and seam line, but also poorly done repairs from years past. So the drip rail was shaved and the entire roof panel welded on for a very solid one-piece look. The floors also got some replacement sheet metal, as well as the lower door openings. But the biggest surprise was when they discovered a dead bird in one of the rear quarter panels. How it got there is anyone's guess.
So I was cutting it out, slit it open, and getting my hands back there to work it out, and I was like, oh, what's back there, little bird? So I pulled it out. Yep, sure enough, just a little skeleton remains. So not sure how he got back there, but.
So what did you really say when you found that something reached in there and felt something dead in there?
Probably. No, I don't know if I could say it on TV.
Yeah. Finally, it was time for paint. And the color I picked was Razzleberry from Axalta's Base Coat Candy color line. And the magic of this paint is that it has the look of a tri-coat candy color, but it's really a much simpler two-stage base coat clear coat. So it's easier to shoot, easy to touch up, and easy to repair. Perfect for a student to learn on.
Axalta paint was awesome, really. Two-coat coverage in the ears and a candy apple paint, and you're getting coverage like that.
Yeah.
So that means you can come back and repair if something happened. As a matter of fact, we had to repair the fenders. You cannot find that. It's been blended, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Where normal candy apple, yeah, you're painting the whole thing, and good luck matching it.
The paint not only covers the entire exterior of the cab, but also most of the interior as well, all the way up to the headliner that was stitched by the upholstery shop at the school. The final touch was the lettering and graphics, and any real tow truck has got to have some sort of sign on the door. So I told them what I wanted, and one of the instructors brought it to life in paint.
Yeah, Eldon Amaro is our refinishing instructor, and he's also been pinstriping, painting for, who knows, 30, 40 years, something like that.
Yeah.
He's very, very talented on that end, and he shares it with his students, and he not only teaches them, you know, the basics of priming, pinstriping, which he's phenomenal with.
He did that quick.
Oh, he's good. The whole graphics on both doors wasn't a day and a half.
Hey, we're back and taking a look at the cab of heavy metal that we just got back from the Hot Rod Institute, where they smoothed out all the rough spots and laid on a coat of Axalta Razzleberry paint. And as you can see, man, it looks flat as glass and about 6 inches deep. Man, this is awesome. But as good as it looks now, man, it's hard to get a true perspective of what this is going to look like until we get it all reassembled. So let's start putting this thing back together. First up is the roof lights. Now this is the original style light that was on the roof, and we're not going to reuse those. What we're going to do is upgrade to these much larger, more streamlined modern lights. But since this light has a much larger footprint, we had the Hot Rod Institute sink a metal mounting pad into the roof, so now it's just a matter of running the wires and mounting the lights. The next big change is in the turn signals. And if you'll remember, the original turn signals mounted here on the side like big Mickey Mouse ears look pretty goofy. So we had the students French in some pockets here to mount these bullet beehive lights from Watson Streetworks. Let's see how they did. The headlights are next, and you'll not only want to clean up and repaint your headlight buckets, but you're also going to want to lay out how you're going to wire your lights, because obviously our original harness is junk. So we're going to rewire this thing with a painless wiring harness, and now is the perfect time to lay out how the wiring is going to go, mount the fuse panel, all that kind of stuff. Now, since we're on the subject of wiring and the dash, let's talk about heat and air. Now, these old trucks, if they had any kind of climate control, they had a heater if you were lucky. And as you can see, this thing is rough. We are not going to reuse this. Fortunately, Vintage Air has got a whole line of universal units, like this compact Gen 2, which as you can see is actually smaller than the heater, and this has air conditioning and the whole deal. So we're going to put this in. As you can see, you got a choice of switches, you got choice of vents. You can set this up totally how you want. But right now, what we're focusing on is mounting this under the dash and laying out where our vents are going to go. The rest of this stuff can wait. And speaking of vents, we can't locate those unless we have the dash in place. So that's the next thing to go in. And believe it or not, this is the original dash. It's just been recovered in distressed vinyl by the upholstery shop at the Hot Rod Institute to match the seat and the headliner. And once we get all that in place, you'll see how nice it all works together.
And now, it's time for another Quick Tip, brought to you by Holley Performance Products.
Today's quick tip has to do with this, or more specifically, when this happens to you. Now, everybody knows that there is safety equipment that you should have in your shop and you should be using it. For example, eye protection, depending on what kind of tools you're using, hearing protection, gloves, once again, depending on the type of tools you're using, respiratory protection when you're shooting paint or chemicals, and of course a first aid kit. But even if you have all this stuff, sometimes things happen. And that's today's quick tip. You need to have a plan for when things happen. For example, you need to know how to stop bleeding and apply first aid. You need to have all your emergency numbers already programmed into your phone so you can access them with a push of a button. You need to know what hospital you're going to go to, and you already need to know what route you're going to take. This is especially important if you work late by yourself in the shop, which most of us do. That's not the time to try to figure out where you're going to go when you've injured yourself. Now, I know this seems obvious, but this is one of the first things that people overlook when they're working in a shop. And your preparation in this area can be the difference between just having a cool bandage or having a life-threatening situation. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
And now, Seal Tech, brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, helping restore the car of your dreams.
You know, one thing that can be a problem when you're working on an older vehicle is trying to find rubber and weather stripping for the windows and the windshield and that kind of thing, because it's probably not available anymore. Now, you can go to places like Steel Rubber to find a replacement, but what if your vehicle's not listed in the catalog? Then what do? Well, if you have a piece of the old rubber, all you have to do is cut a sample so you have a good example of the cross-section and then match it up as close as possible to the pictures of the window seals in the Universal Steel catalog, and you've solved the problem. But what if you don't have any of the old rubber? Well, it's a little more involved, but it can be done. The first thing you need to determine is if the glass fits flush with the pinch weld or it sits in front or behind it. Now, on most windshields, it sits in front of the pinch weld, but you might need to grab a couple of friends and put the glass in place just so you know for sure. Once you've figured this out, you should be able to go to the Steel Universal Catalog and match something up based on measurements and the shape of the window frame. If that doesn't seem to help, Steel offers free samples of different seals so you can find something that'll work. For example, this truck mounts the windshield in front of the pinch weld, and the thick rubber seal fills up all of the space around the glass. The side and rear windows use the same style of seal, but it mounts the glass to the inside of the pinch weld, where the thick part covers all of the holes on the inside. So whether you have some old, obscure rubber seals that need to be replaced, or a completely stripped cab that you have no idea what kind of weather stripping went on it, both problems can be solved with a quick trip through the Steel Universal Catalog.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Devin LaBouffe from Tilbury, Ontario, Canada. And his project, check it out, is a 1996 GMC K1500. Now, he said he didn't pick this vehicle out. He said he gave his dad the money to go find him something, and this is what his dad drug home. Now, he said that it wasn't running, and it was so rotten there were no rocker panels on it, but he loved it anyway. So he said the first thing that they did was get it running, driving, and stopping under its own power, and then he started tearing it apart. Take a look at this. First of all, the cab corners on both sides, the inner and outer rockers were replaced. He even put on a new box and a roll pan. He says right now the truck is primered, but he's driving it all the time and he just loves it. And his plans are to rebuild the engine and stick a Pro Charger on it. That thing's going to rock. And I said the best part is he's only 17 years old. This is his first vehicle. He did all the work himself with the help of his brother and his best friend. And he said he takes great pride in the fact that as a 17-year-old he was able to do this truck. He said the girls like it too. Yeah, there's always that. So, Devin, to recognize such an awesome project, man, we are going to give you one of these bead rollers from Woodward Fab. It's the whole bead roller, plus a bunch of dies to get you down the road rolling some nice beads. Also, since you're obviously a gearhead, we're going to give you one of our Gearz shirts and one of our project planning books so you can keep track of everything you've done to that truck. Also, we're going to give you a purple bicycle book so you can laugh at that. And we're going to give you a copy of Wheel Hub magazine to show you some of the high-end vehicles that are going together out there. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this, get your vehicle featured on the show, well, you got to send it in. Go to the website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On. The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation so you can stream any of our episodes commercial-free. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook so you can get some behind-the-scenes footage of our weekly web series, Shifting Gears. All right, that wraps it up for us today. Obviously, I have some more parts to put on the cab. Devin has a truck to work on. The question is you. What do you have to work on? You need to find something and get out there and start working on it. We'll see you next time.